Welcome to podcast number 3 of the Gary Squared. You have Gary Wilson and Gary Wilson here, and we're back because you want us back. And this is Halloween, so happy Halloween to everyone. And today's topic is rules. Not every rule in pickleball, but the ones that are controversial, the ones that are hard to call, and Gary and I are going to discuss that. We're going to start first with one of the most difficult calls, or the line calls. Gary, what can you tell us about the line rule?
Right, so I'll quickly go over for a novice right here. We're going to zoom in real quick. We've actually brought a prop today. So we have a sheet of paper, we have court, out, and a line. When we make line calls, there are times the ball does not compress. So this is on the line, is in on every line, except for when you serve and hit the kitchen line. No volley zone line. This is out, and it's where the ball touches it out. This is obviously inside the court. Anything where it touches the line is in. Anything that touches outside is out. Ball does not compress. If you want to zoom back out. So, Gare, what I would like you to do while we're still have this ball here. Now, from my point of view, I have a call on this. What is your call there?
See, this is where the difficulty is. Because of the side of the ball I'm looking at, I got to say that that's touching the line. So that's good.
Correct. And clearly, the ball is not touching the line. From my point of view, it is out. And to get very exact on the rule, you must see space between the line and the ball to be able to call it out. I see space right here. Gare does not see space. He has to call it in. So it makes an interesting situation. Let's just think about when a serve is done and the serve hits near the back line, baseline. The person who's returning it, can they make that call, really?
Well, actually it's kind of teamwork when making these calls. If you're serving to Gary and Gary's going to return the serve, and that serve, as Gary said, is deep to the baseline, actually it's easier for me, his partner, because I'm looking right down the line. I can probably make the correct call, whether that ball is long and didn't hit the line or whether it did hit the line and is good.
Right, because if I'm behind the baseline trying to return that ball, my perspective is going to be very different at the angle I'm watching the ball. So the ball might actually be a half-inch out, but I cannot call it out because I cannot see the space between the ball and the back line. I know we've got a couple other different line calls, but obviously this comes about just from the recent tournament. There was one particular pro, should we name a name? Maybe we will. Salome Diaz, who's had problems for years. Funny is if you actually Google line call issues, her name comes up, so that's not good for her. You don't ever want to be known as the person who makes dodgy calls. So what do you think the fix is for that, Gare? And
I don't believe there is a fix, and the problem that arises from that is, and this was a question we had, Gare. One person asked us a question when we said we're discussing rules. The question was, when should I overrule my partner? Because if my partner's having trouble making calls, when do I overrule my partner? My partners could get upset. So I think two things on overruling your partner to answer that question is you got to know your partner. I mean, you don't really want to upset your partner. But again, if the ball's clearly out, I got to call it out. I know I've been asked the question from my partner.
But my view certainly, though, is if from my perspective the ball is clearly in and I have a better view and my partner accidentally called it out, or, sometimes people make mistakes, I'm gonna always give the benefit to the other team. That's how I personally do it. I think that's how 90% of the pickleball players are. But then you have the dodgy 10%. I think back to the Salome, I think an answer for that, it's been brought up, is I think the first time she gets overruled by the ref, it's a warning. The next time it might be a warning. The next time it should be a loss of point. And obviously she's getting that call wrong, so it's almost like a loss of 2 points. And then maybe a loss of a game on the fourth time, which did happen in the Fudge match. So, with Fudge has said now that she won't even play in a tournament until the rule's fixed. So we'll see if the rule gets fixed in 2024.
Yeah, it's some tough decisions. But again, I mean, we have line calls in tennis. We have line calls in baseball for fair balls, foul balls, and they don't have these problems. They're talking about compressed balls and not compressed balls. Let's just call it. If you see it out, call it out. If you think it's in, call it in. I don't really understand. All the
another possible solution, actually, Spaghetti Man actually brought up, is the fact that we could have an extra. We see sometimes there's two refs. Maybe one person is in charge of managing the match, and the other one's only focused on line calls, because obviously the ref has a lot going on. It's very tough to make line calls.
I think again, as the money and the purses go up, then we need these officials to help with the line calls.
and or just make some of the players become line call people. Let's get into serve.
Yeah, let's probably the second most controversial calls are the serves.
Yeah,
and I watch the pros, and those pros are really close.
Which pro in particular?
You know what we need first, Gary? Why don't you tell us exactly what the serve?
Yeah, so there's really three basic service rules for your conventional serve. Basically, you need to be swinging an upward motion. You have to have the paddle below your waist upon contact, and the paddle cannot be above your wrist upon serve. Obviously, I don't want to point out one particular pro, Tyson McGuffin, but he's definitely stretches it, but he rarely gets called. Maybe they're afraid. Maybe the refs are afraid of him, but he's usually mostly legal.
Well, the interesting thing is as you move up the ranks in pickleball, one of the first things you're told is make sure you get the serve in, and the serve's not that important.
Right.
That's what they said. So, but then as you move up to 4-5, the serve becomes important. You're trying to create a softer return. So it is important. That's where the pros push the limits as best they can. And I think a 4-5 player starts to push the limits also.
Yeah, and maybe in the form, because obviously if you can come over the ball and get more topspin, that's beneficial. Can be, but I still think serve is overrated, even maybe a little bit at the pro level. But in singles, it's a definitive. You better have a serve. So what about Ernie's?
Yeah, well, in Ernie's, when the person steps off the court without touching the sideline, without touching the kitchen line, and strikes the ball as it's coming over the net in a volley position, but the ball must break the plane of the net before contact. This is a 4-5-5-0 move, usually set up by putting a dink deep to the opponent's foot, where they're going to put up a softer shot, and you can step around and attack the ball quicker.
Good point. Yeah, I mean, usually at 4-5 level, I see it only when, as you said, deep dink and someone's head's down. At the pro level, sometimes you see a really good-looking shot, and Tyler Leung or whoever jumps over the no volley zone and hits the ball in the air, and it's quite remarkable. One last rule about Ernie's, though, that really gets overlooked is, let's say you don't hit the ball as you attempt your Ernie. If you go beyond that net post, you lose the point. A lot of people don't. I even saw a pro confused about it about a week or two ago. So
yeah, a lot of people are not aware of that. If you step on that up on the sideline and your foot crosses the plane of where the net is, and you don't make contact with the ball, you're absolutely right. You lose the point. You lose the ball.
Yeah. Now I will tell you one last example. I couldn't find it in the rule book, actually. This is with your son when I was playing. He actually hit an Ernie. It barely went over the net. I had to jump the kitchen almost because of how the ball went to hit the ball, but your son was in my way because he came past the net post and he was about to take me out with his shoulder. I'm not sure. Well, we've never seen too much contact in pickleball, but I want to, you can't clarify every rule, but that was a unique situation that I couldn't find. But
the Ernie's a great offensive move if you can do it, if you can move your feet quick enough and avoid stepping on the lines. I think many times in rec play, people step on the lines and It's not
Yeah.
called, but it happens.
Which is an excellent point, which gets us to our next best rule, which is kitchen. And this is the Ernies lead right into it, because so many times people trying for the Ernie and they have a foot on the kitchen line, non-volley zone. I'm sorry to not use the official wording.
We like
properly.
the kitchen line.
I
Start
like
with the kitchen line.
I like kitchen lines.
Tell us the rule. What's the rule?
So the rule basically is you cannot hit a ball in the air while your toe or foot or anything is touching the that kitchen line, the no volley zone line. You'll see a lot of people, they'll reach for a ball and they'll put a toe on the line. Now, in tournament play, if you have a ref, that is the ref's main job, which is why we had issues with the line calls, because the ref is not looking at for the line calls. The ref is looking for kitchen fault. So I think I have rarely seen a ref screw up a kitchen call when they say, yes, you were in the kitchen. I can't remember if it's happened, but you know, they're really concentrating on that.
I think that's our main focus.
Right. And so they typically get that right. But I think the better question also is, in a rec game and or in a tournament where you don't have a ref, how do you go about the kitchen calls?
I believe the official rule is, if my opponent attacks the ball on a volley, which means in the air, and their foot is on the kitchen line and I call it, that's a fault on them. I don't think they have any recourse or anything.
So it is a fault on them. However, this is where the rule gets a little controversial. They can say, I wasn't in the kitchen, and then it's a replay of the point. So this rule can be really abused because they could be on the kitchen line all the time. You're only going to probably catch half of them because you're actually trying to play and hit the ball. And when you do call them and catch them in the kitchen, they can just say no and replay the point. I believe I've had one tournament where I will say the person did it repetitively against me, and basically I give them usually allowance of saying, yeah, okay, we might replay the first one unless I clearly saw their foot over the line. After that, I'm going and getting a ref. I'm saying, you know, we're done with this. We're getting a ref.
Yes. One of the calls you'll see at the pro level, you don't see it that often in rec play or at the 4 or 5 non-officiated calls, is it's kind of hard to explain, but when there's a lob that's only going halfway deep and the person is not in the kitchen line, but as they step back, they step forward a hair, maybe with their left foot usually if you're a right-hander, and that left foot hits the kitchen line, they step back and they are planning now on their right foot doing an overhead.
Great,
so they're
great
coming
point.
down this way. The left foot never established.
Right. So you obviously need to get your feet reestablished, meaning both feet in the court before striking the ball. I'm so glad you brought that up. Because it really does happen in the pros often. It must be a tennis thing where you put your foot forward to push off. Another few just quick rules on the kitchen also. For instance, if I hit the ball in the air and my hat flies off and lands in the kitchen, that's a fault. Anything that's attached to my body. So we had this just happen 2 days ago. My partner hit me because they're going for the ball. I actually made contact with the ball. I never went in the kitchen, but my partner bounced off me, went in the kitchen. That's a fault. You become part of one, and anything that lands in the kitchen becomes a fault. Let me ask you a question though. Do you call kitchen infractions in rec play? How do you feel like that's a okay thing to do? Or because people get really bothered when they get called.
People get really bothered. To tell you the truth, I'm not very good at seeing people's feet. I don't know if I've ever really called someone for being in the kitchen.
We had to amplify the computer screen for his eyes, right?
I've been called for being in the kitchen when I try and do an Ernie and step on the line. It's rec play. If they call it, I'm actually kind of happy they did. They're teaching me. They're teaching me to get my feet out of there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, you know, to me, it's funny because you'll see someone in the kitchen when they hit it, and it's almost subconsciously they move their foot back and go, I wasn't in there. And it's like, you just moved your foot back.
You're guilty. Your body movements show you're guilty.
You're definitely right. So I think we have covered basically most of the rules that we wanted to today.
Yeah.
And I think we want to just briefly go over sponsors. We kind of mix it up a little bit today. Gary, you got still your sponsor?
Again, my main sponsor is Adidas. We have Adidas paddle here, Adidas hat there, Adidas hat here, Adidas shirt here. So I think I sleep in Adidas now. I don't know, but the price is right. I mean, they're a great sponsor.
Yes, absolutely. And obviously, we still would like some sponsors for this podcast. There is expenses, and that would be great. And we do have, Spaghetti Man has his engaged sponsorship. You can find the links below as the video goes. And that brings up the next reminder of please click subscribe. It really helps us. It helps us run these podcasts, and I hope you appreciate them enough to please hit subscribe. Doesn't cost anything. Doesn't mean you're on the hook for life. You're not like going to get 1,000 emails, but it is helpful for us. And I believe it's helpful for you because you'll catch a lot of Spaghetti Man's great videos from the Senior Pro. You'll be catching some videos from Nationals, I believe. And so please hit your like and subscribe. Gare, I think we want to cover just another one or two things left. You know, Nationals upcoming. We leave next week. We're not in the same car. I'm driving out there. How are you getting out there?
I'm flying out there.
He's rich. But yeah, it should be a great venue. I think there's about 4,000 players.
Yes, and I believe there's 77 courts, 76 courts, something like that.
Yeah, let's hope they're all put together. I heard some rumors they may not been, but actually one of my buddies just got out there. And he said looking pretty good. The weather's looking pretty good. So we'll see. And just in regards to Nationals, we do also just want to bring up some interesting things about Nationals. So when you play Nationals, they won't let you play up in level. Most tournaments allow you to play whatever level you want to play. Sometimes you have a requirement to get into pro or senior pro, a certain rating or whatever. But it's interesting, you know, that we don't have these ratings. So, you know, you're forced to basically go in wherever your UTPR is.
Yeah, I think this will be very interesting because, to be honest, my rating for the US APA is 4.0. Most of the tournaments I play at 4.5.
Yeah, 4.50. You played Open Division and got second place in US Open.
US Open 5.0.
US Open, totally open, yeah, 5.0, everything. We have friends that have won Senior Pro medals, and they're still 4.0.
They're still 4.0. That's where we complained about the rating system before.
We will get into the rating systems on a future podcast when we get back from Nationals, so look out for that. We've got a 3-part rating system coming up. And, you know, just an interesting side note of that, so I started looking at Duper and some of my opponents at Nationals. So I'm playing 4.0 as well. And I would say almost everybody's Duper is somewhere between 4.7 and 5.0 are my opponents.
And they're listed at 4.0 by the USA.
Right. USA. Yeah. UTPR. Unbelievable, terrible pickleball rating system. So I think I have 40 teams in my bracket because of how the rating system crams everything down. And I think at 4.5, at my age, there's only 5 or 6 teams. I'm not even sure. Was there even any players above 4.0 in your age bracket?
Unfortunately, I'm playing 70-year-old age bracket. And I think we have 24 teams at 4.0. And then at the 4.5, I think there were 5.
Was there 5?
And that's ridiculous.
I'm surprised that there was even 5 teams. You know, so that's going to be very interesting in regards to Nationals, and
we can report back on that when we get back. Yeah,
and we hope to give you a real quick shout out when we're in Nationals, but we'll see how that goes. And that's good. So do you have anything else, Gare?
No, but I do have a question.
Oh, good. We always like questions.
I always
Thank
love
you.
questions. And
Thank you.
when you see us out on the road, or you see us in nationals, ask your question. We'll write it down, and we'll bring it forth.
He likes his on yellow sticky paper.
Yes.
You can email me, and I use electronics today. But
oh, here, let me just say one more thing, and this kind of leads to this question. One of the things I wasn't happy with nationals is this. When I go out on this coming week, Tuesday is when I play men's doubles.
mm-hmm.
And Wednesday I am playing mixed doubles with my wife. So that's Tuesday and Wednesday. I was considering playing singles. However, for an unknown reason, and it was a mistake, they scheduled singles on Monday. Believe me, a 70-year-old person cannot play singles on Monday and then doubles on Tuesday.
Yeah.
The singles should be in the end, because then you're only affecting yourself.
Right.
If I play singles Monday, it's not fair to my partner on Tuesday.
How about your wife on Wednesday? Fair? Not fair?
I'll recover by then. Otherwise she won't be happy.
Yeah, and that's it for another one of our future podcasts. Actually, how to do better tournaments. Which I think brings us to
this question. And the question was this: what should I look for to determine if this tournament that I'm thinking of entering, I should enter? What are some things that say this would be a good tournament to play in? Or what are some things that say stay away from this tournament? We talked to you last week about a tournament where it took 6 hours, 8 hours to play a round robin, which was crazy.
Maybe two matches, I heard.
Yeah. So what's something you would look for?
Number one to me is price, but obviously it's not always price, because nationals is costing me over $300, and that's an expensive tournament. Cost is one of the big ones I look for. Do you have obviously a couple ones?
I think one of the things I look for is at the 4 or 5 level to see if there's enough teams. I mean,
right.
Most of the time as a 70-year-old, I'm playing 60-year-old 4 or 5s, which is fine. But I don't want to have to play 50-year-old 4 or 5. So I'm looking to see how many teams there are. But then again, I'm also looking to see, in rec play, I play a lot of players that are 4 or 5, 60-year-old. Am I playing the same guys?
Right, because you enter a tournament, you want to play different teams than the ones you play every week. I think one of the other things I look for is I prefer round robin. I like to get a few matches in.
That's interesting, because there's 2 types of tournament: a round robin tournament and a double elimination tournament. Right. Some people prefer one, some people prefer the other. Gary said he prefers a round robin. I would have said a while ago I would prefer double elimination, but I'm more in favor of a round robin also. It's
a good one. And this week I don't have any questions. So do you have anything else, Gary?
Yeah, I think we provided you with some good information this week.
Great, and I hope to catch you again. Please hit subscribe. We'll catch you after nationals, and we will be covering the rating systems. That's going to be crazy. So until next time, thank you very much.
Take care, guys.
Take care. Cheers.